Have you ever looked at someone's life and thought, if I had their money, I would finally feel confident, secure, or maybe even free? For years, I thought the exact same thing until I realized that that's the illusion they want us to believe. And no one sells it quite like Kim Kardashian. She's one of the most recognizable people on the planet. Wildly wealthy, endlessly followed, and branded as a modern success story. From skincare empire to law school ambitions, she has branded herself over and over again as the woman who has it all. And just to be clear, it's not about tearing someone down in specific. Kim Kardashian is just one of many. It's about being honest about the kind of success that is being sold to us. And asking, is this really the financial role model that we should be following? Especially if you care more about just money, if you want purpose, peace, and relationships that thrive. So let's start with the first problem. When success becomes a performance, Kim Kardashian is a master of optics. Her wealth is part of the brand. Private jets, seven-figure closets, skincare lines, shapewear, and perfectly curated photo shoots. But that's exactly it. It's curated. What's rarely being talked about is that this kind of lifestyle is manufactured, not only financially, but also emotionally and psychologically. It sends a message that your worth is tied to how much you show off, not how much peace, time, or fulfillment you have. And here is where it gets deeper. We're not just consuming Kim's lifestyle. We're internalizing a model of success that is algorithm approved. That means dramatic wins, visible transformation, and constant evolution. Quiet success like building an emergency fund or setting boundaries doesn't go viral. So we stop celebrating it. And that has real consequences. For the average young professional, someone earning good money, but also juggling debt, career uncertainty, and burnout, chasing that kind of image can feel like running on a treadmill that never stops. You're spending more, not to build wealth, but to look like you have it. Kim's model promotes performance over purpose. And that can lead us to spend our energy trying to impress instead of trying to live. But what if this performance isn't just about appearances? What if it's shaping the way we spend, even if we don't realize it? Kim Kardashian's world is built on it. Consumption. Her brand thrives on selling us things that we didn't know we needed. Sculpting bodysuits, skin-perfecting products, glam teens, closet-sized fridges stocked with alkaline water. And look, there's nothing wrong with spending on nice things. The problem is when we start to equate buying power with personal power. When spending becomes the goal and not the byproduct of a meaningful life. When we measure success by what we can afford to flaunt, we lose sight of what actually fulfills us. Time to rest, energy for the people we love, and space to breathe. In contrast, financial wellness, real, grounded financial wellness, often looks boring. Choosing an older car so you can take Fridays off. Prioritizing sleep by skipping nightlife that drains your next day as well as your wallet. Cooking at home most nights to build health and savings together. Kim's model says, earn more to spend more. But a meaningful financial life asks, earn enough to need less. But it's not just our spending habits that are being influenced. Our relationships too. And the impact there can be even more subtle and more costly. Kim's personal life is no secret. Marriages, divorces, and family dynamics have been part of her public narrative. In many ways, relationships have been commodified in the Kardashian brand, repackaged and sold back to the public through interviews, shows, and headlines. But it goes even deeper. One of the most controversial aspects of Kim's rise to fame is the claim that her mother, Kris Jenner, played a direct role in leaking or marketing the infamous tape that initially propelled Kim into the public eye. Whether fully true or partially orchestrated, the implication is deeply troubling that a parent have commodified their own daughter's vulnerability to build their brand, instead of protecting and guiding her as a loving parent and true role model would. This sends a subtle message that relationships, even the most intimate ones, are non-negotiable if the price is right. But they're just another part of the performance, another asset of the portfolio. When your identity becomes your brand, your relationships start to shift from something deeply nourishing to something strategic. And look, there's nothing wrong with being ambitious, but if connection becomes content, it will be harder to determine if that person is in your life for real or for reach. That's a cost many young professionals overlook until they burn out emotionally. You can't pour into your relationships when your energy is spent maintaining your image. And here's why this really matters. Love is not just a nice to have. Research from developmental psychology and books like The Power of Meaning show that love, not hygiene, not intellect, not resources, is the deciding factor in whether children thrive. Love determines whether they grow up healthy, resilient, and whole. And that truth doesn't change when we become adults. Financial health isn't just about spreadsheets. It's about who will sit next to you when life breaks open. But the most dangerous effects aren't always in our bank accounts or relationships. Sometimes they show up in our own reflections, in how we feel about who we are. So you might think, well, Kim is confident. She owns her power. Isn't that something to admire? Here's the nuance. What we often interpret as confidence is really commercialized insecurity. Her empire profits off the idea that you're almost enough, but not quite. Not quite skinny enough, not quite polished enough, not quite young enough. But hey, here's a product to help you get there. And that's not empowerment. That's a business model. True self-confidence doesn't require constant self-optimization. It doesn't live in contour palettes or lip kits. It lives in knowing your value, regardless of your appearance or your possessions. And that value doesn't come from what you consume. It comes from what you contribute. Your virtuous actions, not luxury products, are what build real confidence. They save you money and make you a better human being on earth, feeling way more fulfilled in your life. A good financial role model should encourage stability, not endlessly striving. Should help you build an identity that doesn't collapse every time a trend changes or an essential product drops. And when your self-worth is constantly being sold back to you, what does that actually do to your values, to your goals? Let's dig deeper. Kim Kardashian has mastered the art of vanity metrics, follower counts, brand valuation, viral moments. From a business standpoint, it can be seen as impressive. But if you're someone who's looking to connect money with meaning, that's where the model quietly unravels. Because here's the truth. Money is a tool, not a scoreboard. A value-driven financial life doesn't care how it looks from the outside. It asks, am I using my money to create freedom? Is my spending aligned with my purpose? Does my financial plan reflect my real priorities, not just societal ones? But that kind of clarity takes stillness, and stillness doesn't trend. It's easy to forget that quiet wealth, the kind that brings you health, time, and peace, often looks unimpressive from the outside. It won't go viral. It won't get you partnership deals, but it will build a life that is actually yours. Vanity, on the other hand, will create a different kind of poverty, a poverty of presence. It's the reason there is a relentless search, constant drama, and rarely any real bliss. When you can buy everything materialistic in the world, what's left? That's also why we see this deep obsession with youth. The millions spent on surgery, fillers, and curated perfection, not as an expression of joy, but as a resistance to aging, to change, to depth. Instead of honoring the wisdom and beauty that come with growing older, the goal becomes to erase the years and not to celebrate that you've lived them. Also, this isn't about appearance. It's about how purpose is again replaced with performance. Because when wealth is used mainly to preserve an image, it stops being a tool for growth and starts becoming a mask. One that has to be constantly maintained, one that quietly erodes your time, your energy, your relationships. Even with unimaginable wealth, the life still looks crowded. Packed calendars, non-stop reinvention, and pressure to keep the brand evolving. It glorifies busyness, a life of reaction, not reflection. The connections too can feel more like a performance and not true bliss. When your days are spent curating followers instead of cultivating friendships, it's easy to feel surrounded, but not actually supported. And what's the actual legacy? Not wisdom passed down, not time handed forward, but products, brands, and influence that ultimately reinforce the endless chase. Because real success isn't measured in followers, it's measured in how free you feel when no one's watching. So if that kind of wealth isn't really bringing us closer to joy, what does real financial success even look like? And if not Kim, then who? Honestly, it's not about one person, it's about alignment. A true financial role model doesn't just show off what they have. They demonstrate how they live. They embody consistency, intention, and a sense of enoughness. They show up not only as a financial role model, but in general as a role model on how to be a good human being. You might resonate with someone who lives simply, even with high income, talks openly about failures and boundaries, prioritizes relationships and purpose over optics, someone who praises stability over novelty. A good role model gives you the feeling that you're developing, not exhaustion. Grounded, not pressured. Because ultimately, the best role models don't just lead you to more money. They lead you back to yourself. But to know what real success looks like, we also have to know what kind of people are worth following. Kim Kardashian is rich in money, but it doesn't mean that she's rich in the same way that matters to you. Being truly rich is about so much more than money. It's about being grounded in your values. It's about being wealthy in time, in health, in love, and in meaning. So the next time you find yourself behind or not enough, or like you need to keep up with someone else's version of success, take a pause, look inward, and ask yourself, what does freedom actually mean to me? What would a rich life look like if no one else were watching? Because if you build your financial life around those answers, not trends, not hype, not filtered perfection, that's when you truly win. And if you found this video helpful, it would mean the world to me if you give this video a thumbs up, hit the notification bell as well as the subscribe button, and join the community as it grows. So see you next time. Bye.